Cloverbud presentation tonight. It probably won't take too long to go through it, but there are some things that we were going to highlight with our Cloverbud program. So welcome, and just want to introduce Danielle, who's on the video chat with us here tonight. Danielle is our programming coordinator. And is going to be monitoring things kind of the behind the scenes while I do some talking here tonight. So if at any time, if you have any questions or that, we do have the chat feature that to definitely put any questions there. And if you're not just familiar with Zoom, if you just kind of hover and that bar across the bottom, you'll see chat, and you can just click on that and it'll bring it up on the side. And then also where it says participants as well, if you want to, if you ever want to raise your hand, if there's a question you'd like to ask, you can just click on participants, and at the bottom of that box, there is a little function there that says raise my hand, and you can just click on that to ask any questions. So, and just another note for tonight, we are recording this as well, so that we can put it onto our 4-H Ontario website for people to view later on as well. So for those who aren't able to join us this evening, that they can look at it at that point. So tonight we're going to highlight and feature the 3 new units that have been created for the Cloverbud program. The 3 new units were written by Vanessa Stewart, who was our programming summer student last summer, and who also worked on the Cloverbud program for us as well. So I'm just going to switch here. I'm just going to share. We've got some slides here to look at, and I'm just going to get it to show all windows, because all of a sudden, yeah, the presentation isn't showing here on the share screen. So I'm just going to try this once more and see. There we go. And that will get that up on the screen there. So, and that will get it to go from beginning. There we go. So hopefully everybody can see the screen that you should be seeing now should say 2020 4-H Ontario Cloverbud unit releases. And that's what we're going to look at this evening. Now, first of all, we're just going to go over just a little bit of the basics of the Cloverbud program. I know it might be a bit of review for some of you, but for those who are new to the program, just a few highlights of what Cloverbuds is here in Ontario. So it is a year-long program, and it's run under the umbrella of 4-H Ontario. And it's very much a hands-on activity-based program. So it is for our 6 to 8-year-olds as of December 31st of the previous year. And the Cloverbud program focuses on all different aspects of the 4-H program. So from agriculture, food, crafts, life skills, environment, and science. So what Cloverbuds really looks like is almost like it's an Explore 4-H. So it's a chance for our 6 to 8-year-olds to see all different aspects of 4-H and get a little bit of a taste of what the 4-H program is. And it's the purpose of Cloverbuds is to introduce our 6 to 8-year-olds to all of the different facets that 4-H Ontario offers. And we do it through a lot of fun activity-based activities within the Cloverbud units. So we know that with our 6 to 8-year-old set, the program does need to look a bit different than what we offer for our 9 to 21-year-olds, in that obviously we have different level of maturity, but also shortened attention spans with the 6 to 8-year-old range. So we make sure that the Cloverbud program does look a little different than the 9 to 12-year-old or 9 to 21-year-old program, in that the units really don't have a lot of content of topic information per se, but they do contain a lot of content in the form of activities and a variety of activities within each of the units. So in 2020, we are using year 2 of Cloverbud curriculum. There are 3 years available. So this program was launched in Ontario in 2013 with year 1, and year 1 had 24 units in that unit. In 2014, we launched year 2, and then in 2015, we launched year 3. And then that meant in 2016, we went back to using year 1 curriculum, and then it just continually rotates through. And that's where 2020 lands, in that we are using year 2 of the Cloverbud curriculum. So tonight we're going to talk about the 3 additional units that are going to be added to year 2, so that year 2 will have a total of 27 different units. And a little later on in the presentation, we'll take a look at all of the units that are available for year 2. So with the Cloverbud program, it works a little bit differently than a 4-H project, in that a 4-H member could take a number of 4-H projects during the year. With the Cloverbud program, a participant signs up for the year, and they have to attend a minimum of 4 Cloverbud meetings in order to receive credit for being a participant in the Cloverbud program for the year. As leaders offering the program, we ask that you offer a minimum of 6 meetings during the year, but there's no limit as to how many units that you can offer. And I think that the most I've heard was we did have a 4-H association in Eastern Ontario that one year they did actually offer 22 different Cloverbud units within the year. So they were very eager and keen, and it's definitely quite an achievement. But we don't expect that leaders that all leaders will do that. But we do ask that you do offer a minimum of 6, and then beyond that, whatever it is that you're able to do with your Cloverbuds throughout the year as part of the program. As with any 4-H program and any 4-H club, all Cloverbud clubs have to have a minimum of 2 leaders that are in good standing. And the rule of 2 also applies with Cloverbuds, in that if a husband and wife are leading the club, then they do need that 3rd person that is not related to them with the Cloverbud club. So in looking at the new units that are being offered this year, the first one that appears there on the screen is Ontario's Tasty Fruits and Vegetables. So this was a provincial project that was released in March of 2019 as a 4-H club for our 9 to 21-year-olds. And it was an update of the Taste of Ontario Fruits and Vegetables, which I believe the last time when it was released was about 1986, 1988, somewhere in that range. So we were quite excited last year to be able to update our Ontario's Tasty Fruits and Vegetables project. There's a lot more variety of vegetables and fruits that are now grown in Ontario thanks to technology and science. And so we were able to capture that in this new project. So when it was updated last year provincially as a 4-H project, the funding came from Cowan Insurance Group. And then, as with all of our Cloverbud units and our Cloverbud program, Syngenta is the sponsor, is the flagship sponsor of the Cloverbud program. So they also help with the development of these new units. And then we also do want to recognize Cowan, because they were the original funder where some of the information came from in order to develop this unit. Syngenta also sponsors the Cloverbud program, in that they are the ones that sponsor the trophy that our Cloverbud members receive when they complete their first year of being a Cloverbud, as well as the year plates that go on that trophy for the 2nd and 3rd year that a Cloverbud member participates in the program. So as I mentioned, we do have 3 unique years of programming for the Cloverbud program. And one of the reasons that we have that is so that if a youth starts into the program when they're 6 years old and they take all 3 years of the program, they will have 3 unique years of programming by being a Cloverbud. So that potentially on the start, when we first launched the first 3 years, there were 72 units. So they potentially could do 72 different units if those were all offered. Last year we did launch 4 new Cloverbud units last year. So year 1 now has 28 units in it, and now year 2 has 27 units in it. So we do have 79 units now that are available to our Cloverbuds. So within the Ontario Tasty Fruits and Vegetables unit, it is just as the title says, it does explore what is grown here in Ontario. And within this project, it looks at a number of different things. It moves from what is grown here to how it's grown, and then also enjoying what Ontario has and what snacks that we can have and what foods that we can eat from what's grown here in Ontario. So one of the ways with the Cloverbud units is that we do like to have the meetings look similar to what a youth will experience once they become a 4-H member when they turn 9 years old. So we look in our Cloverbud meetings to have them start with a 4-H pledge and then also do a roll call as well. And it gives the Cloverbuds an opportunity to be able to work on their public speaking, their communication skills. And so this is one of the roll call questions out of the Ontario Tasty Fruits and Vegetables Cloverbud unit, and that's just to name a fruit or vegetable that's grown in Ontario. And with the name of the game being with this activity, see how long of a list they can make. And so there is a hint there that there are 43 fruits and vegetables that are Ontario grown, and that's according to Foodland Ontario. But this question can also lead into a really great activity about talking about just exactly what is grown here, and if there are answers come in like bananas or not apples, but pineapple, that they can talk about the fact that sometimes we have to import some of our fruit instead of growing it here, depending on what kind of climate we need to grow some of those things like pineapple or coconut. So some of these things too, given the environment that we're in right now and that we have to do things virtually until such time that we can meet in person again, it does make it a little bit more of a challenge with the Cloverbud program because it is very hands-on and very activity-based. But there are some ways to still be able to have a Cloverbud program. And one is doing shorter meetings that are virtually online and then having some of our Cloverbuds do some of the activities at home. One of the things that can be done online are things like the roll call question and using the chat feature that comes with Zoom or something like WebEx or whatever platform it is that you might be using. And having the youth, even though we know at this age, chances are there's going to have to be a parent there as well, although sometimes our younger set of youth are actually sometimes better at using some of this technology than some of the rest of us. But utilizing that technology to be able to do things like answering a roll call question and having youth give their answers and give their reasons for some of these answers. So the second unit for Cloverbuds that is being launched this year is the leadership unit. And this was also, this was a project that was just launched this year. So, and all of these projects normally we would have launched at CAM, but seeing as that event wasn't able to happen this year, we're doing it online. And all of these are available on our 4-H Ontario website. This project was the 4-H project for 9 to 21-year-olds, the leadership project. The material and for creating that project was funded by the late William and Rhea Seith. And that's where the content came from for creating this Cloverbud unit. And once again, this Cloverbud unit, thanks to Syngenta, we were able to go ahead and take the information from the leadership project that was just created and create a Cloverbud unit with this. So when looking at leadership, we sometimes think of it as sometimes being a topic that's maybe geared more towards our older members, our older 4-H members. But I know Vanessa did a great job with this unit in gearing it towards our 6 to 8-year-olds and introducing the concept of leadership to this age range. And once again, we've got one of the roll call questions here that comes up within this project. And it's just to start with that idea and that concept of leadership and really who is a leader. And I know when we first think about talking about who is a leader, you maybe think of the Prime Minister or the Premier or even their teacher or something like that. But this is where this can lead to that discussion of basically and that you can be a leader depending on the situation, and that different situations make for needing different leaders. So with this activity and with this age range too, you can ask, that it can be a real person, it can be a fictional person that they see on TV as well, and start to really discuss what skills and what attributes that a leader has, and what makes a good leader and what makes a not so good leader. So this project starts them on that path of knowing what leadership is, and which is one of the core competencies within our 4-H programming. We look at things like leadership skills and communication, which is also one of the aspects of this unit. And then throughout all of our units, things like critical thinking as well, which a lot of times comes in the form of a judging activity. The third unit that is being released this year is the Real Dirt on Farming. So this project was also released as a 4-H project for our 9 to 21-year-olds in March of 2019. And the document, this one actually has kind of an interesting history to it. This was a new project in Ontario, but it's actually been offered in Ontario for the last few years as a locally submitted project. That's how it first came to us. It was originally developed by Carleton 4-H Association, and they submitted it in as a locally submitted project. And we found that the project was quite popular and had a lot of pickup. And so we took this project and created it into a full-fledged provincial project. We had the two ladies from Carleton 4-H that had originally submitted the locally submitted project as part of the advisory committee that helped to create the provincial project for 9 to 21-year-olds. And that original project that was released last year, we actually had 3 partners that went together to help us with the funding and with helping with creating and with content for the project. And we had Farm and Food Care Ontario, and they were in partnership with CropLife Canada, and then Ontario Mutuals co-sponsored the project. So then when Vanessa went to create the Cloverbud unit for Real Dirt on Farming, she used the content that was in that provincial project that was created last year to create the Cloverbud unit that we now have to offer for our 6 to 8-year-olds. So, and once again, the creation of this Cloverbud unit was in thanks to Syngenta. So with the Real Dirt on Farming project, with the project that the 9 to 21-year-olds do, the project does focus on all different segments of the agriculture industry. So all different segments of livestock as well as cropping. And what the provincial project does is that it looks at how agriculture works, but also the issues that are affecting agriculture. And the way the provincial project was designed, it's not designed just to learn about agriculture, but it's designed for those that are even within agriculture, but maybe have grown up with a background in beef or in dairy, but don't know a whole lot about the poultry industry. So this is their opportunity to do that. With the Cloverbud unit, it's also a bit of an introduction to agriculture, and even for our 6 to 8-year-old set, some of them may come from farms. They may have a bit of a background in agriculture already, but maybe only in one segment. Whereas this project does look at a lot of different segments and what type of farming is done in Canada, and then specifically within Ontario. So, and that leads us to the roll call question. With this that I've got posted here. And once again, this is one that if you were running an online Cloverbud project, that you could have members either one by one verbally give their answers, or use the chat feature on something like Zoom or WebEx, or whichever platform it is that you're using, and really starting that conversation about what types of crops are grown. And with this question, it's specifically looking at Ontario. Or what types of animals are grown in or found on Ontario farms. And it is sometimes interesting, I know with sometimes working at the booth at the Royal, and you have a little bit of a different audience there again, but some of our youth really don't know what animals are found on farms in Ontario. And I know I've had the answers in the past of I had giraffe, I've had elephant, and those sorts of things. So sometimes that does help to lead into that conversation of what animals we do find on Ontario farms, and which animals we don't find on Ontario farms. And also with this project, even looking at what those types of animals look like. and being able to distinguish between a beef animal and a dairy animal, and some of those kind of foundational things within agriculture to start that knowledge. And like I say, for those youth who do come from farms, they get exposed to other types of farming that they maybe haven't had the opportunity to learn much about. So within each of the Cloverbud units, they are all structured somewhat the same, in that each of them start off with their meetings with the 4-H pledge and doing a roll call question. And then there's 4 different sections within the project. It starts with the let's get started. There's a let's explore section. There's a looking within section as well. So looking at how this topic affects them. And then there's a wrapping up section. And usually a lot of times the wrapping up section has some type of snack associated with whatever the title is. So within year 2, as I mentioned, when it was originally released, year 2 was released in 2014, we came out with 24 different units. And like I say, each one of them has activities in them, and very, very much hands-on, very tactile activities for our 6 to 8 year olds. Each unit comes with more activities than you can probably cover within a 2-hour period. I know a lot of Cloverbud clubs don't usually meet for the full 2 hours. Sometimes they'll meet for an hour or an hour and a half, although there are a few that do the 2 hours as well. So but like I say, within each unit there's more activities than you could cover within 2 hours. And the reason that these meetings were structured that way is that we know that every Cloverbud club is different. Sometimes there'll be a lot more 6-year-olds in the club than 8-year-olds, and sometimes there'll be a lot more 8-year-olds, and so you have different maturity levels, different knowledge levels, and we wanted to make it that each of these meetings, that leaders could tailor the meetings to what the members' needs are. And that, because ultimately that's what we want to make sure that we're doing is that we're doing this for our Cloverbud members, and we want to make sure that it is relevant and it's fun for them and it's what they want, and so that they want to come back for more. So as I was saying near the beginning, that within each of the years, we try and make sure that we cover off each of the different areas of project offerings through 4-H, so that we are looking at agriculture, but we're also looking at outdoors, we're looking at science, we're looking at life skills. And then we also have some fun topics in there as well, things like play with clay, which is really fun. It's very tactile activities that are in that project, but it also does focus a little bit on science with some of the things that are made and the ingredients that are needed to make clay and those sorts of things. And they're doing some STEM activities without even knowing it. So with the addition of these 3 projects, with leadership, Ontario's Tasty Fruits and Vegetables, and the Real Dirt on Farming, we now have a total of 27 units that are available from year 2. And then going forward in 2021, we'll be using year 3 curriculum, and the plan is to have new units added for next year as well. And trying to mirror some of the projects that are offered for a 9 to 21-year-old set, so that our 6 to 8-year-old set of youth are able to get a bit of a taste of what projects are to come if they stay involved within the 4-H program. So that is a quick overview of our Cloverbud program and the new units that are being offered. So I don't know if anybody has any questions here. We can definitely open it up for questions and any discussion. And as well on the screen there, you can see that that is my email address. If you ever have any questions or if you have trouble finding any of the resources, definitely let me know. As well, that is my cell number there on the screen as well. As we're with everything else, our 4-H staff are all working from home right now, so we are all working remotely. And so calling us directly on our cell phones is probably the best way to get in touch with us right now, since we don't have anybody in our 4-H Ontario office in Rockwood currently. So by all means, you can definitely give me a call or send me an email, and I'm happy to be able to email out whatever resources that you have. As well as if you have any questions, with doing things virtually right now, because we know that for leaders, it is a little out of our comfort zone, having to do meetings online rather than in person, which is the way we've been used to for so many years. So we have had to put a little bit of thought into how we do things a little bit differently. But we also hear from leaders as well that have had some great ideas and that they've shared in order to help us make this work, and to be able to allow our youth to still have a 4-H year and still have that constant in their life, or be able to add this activity in a time when a lot of their other activities they're not able to do. So this is one area that they can explore. They can do hands-on activities, and as well still be a part of something, even if it does have to be virtually for the time being, and until we can have such time that we can meet in person again. So Danielle, I don't know if there's been any questions come in on chat. And
I haven't seen any at the moment.
No questions. So yeah, if anybody does have a question, we'll stay on for about another minute or so. And that if there are any questions about the Cloverbud program, we are happy to answer them. I guess one thing I didn't talk about is that for training for leaders for Cloverbud program, it is the same training that we use for all our volunteers. So if somebody is interested in leading the Cloverbud program, they do have to do the new volunteer orientation training, the same as if someone was going to lead a 4-H project. And within that new volunteer orientation training, there is a section there that they do talk about leading for Cloverbud, since it is a little bit different with the Cloverbud age. And I know some leaders are quite excited. They like the younger age, and they would actually prefer to be a Cloverbud leader, whereas for some of our leaders, they'd much prefer to work with the 9 to 21-year-old set, or even with senior members, 15 and over. One other thing with the Cloverbud program that is really, it's kind of a nice add-on as well, is that if you do have a youth leader that would like to work with that younger set, by all means, that is definitely an opportunity that is available through 4-H, is for a youth that's 15 years and over that has done the youth leader training and is ready to go as a youth leader. They can be a youth leader for a Cloverbud club. And so I know with being a youth leader, if they were in their own club, say they were taking the beef club and they were a beef club member and they also did youth leader, they would get a credit for the beef club and for being a youth leader. Whereas with Cloverbuds, they wouldn't get for Cloverbud, but they would get that youth leader credit. And it's a great opportunity for somebody that is maybe thinking of a career working with youth and with that younger age. Maybe they're thinking of going into early childhood education or teaching or a variety of different things. Being able to be a part of a Cloverbud club and having that experience working with that younger set would be a great asset, and is something that looks good on a resume as well. And as leaders, especially in this time, but even when we're not doing things virtually, but for right now with doing things virtually, sometimes those youth leaders are great at some of the online things and creating activities that our youth can do online as part of a virtual meeting. And with doing virtual meetings, one of the things too we know that youth are spending a lot of time online these days with doing schoolwork and a lot of other things. And I think a lot of us too as well are spending more time online doing working remotely and with meetings and such. Not all of the instructional time for our 4-H clubs, whether it's a 4-H club or a Cloverbud club, need to be completely online. You can try and split it up, and as with any 4-H club or Cloverbud club, a lot of what you do would be hands-on activities. So you don't have to be online the entire time. If you try and figure out approximately how much time some of those activities might take and do them and have members do them offline, and then however you choose to have them show their work, whether they take a picture and send it in, or the next time you're online that they can show what they did in their time that they spent offline, we leave it up to the leaders to do. We know we put our trust in you. We know that you're extremely good at what you do with leading our 4-H clubs, and we know you'll do a great job. But as staff, we are here to help as well, that if you do have questions as to how some of this might work, or how do you make an activity work, those sorts of things, we are here to help. We're definitely want to make sure that we can provide the support to our leaders that they need. Like I said, because for a number of us leaders, I know for myself, I'm staff, but I also do volunteers 4-H as well. And for some of us, it is a little bit out of our comfort zone sometimes to be doing things virtually online. So with that, if there aren't any questions, we'll sign off for tonight. But I want to thank you for joining us for this webinar, and it will be available on the 4-H Ontario website. And the 3 Cloverbud units that we talked about tonight are also on the 4-H website already, available for download. And definitely, if you have any questions, by all means, get in touch with us at 4-H Ontario, and we will do our best to help with whatever it is that you need. So thank you for joining us tonight for this, and thank you to Danielle for kind of doing the administrative work behind the scenes. And like I say, if you have any questions, by all means, give us a shout, and we'll help you out with that. So thank you, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you.
You're quite welcome.